Yep.
Welcome back. Now we are hosting our special guest of the week. And our guest this morning is Ambassador Robin Sanders, former United States Ambassador to Nigeria. Good morning.
Good morning.
And good to have you with us this morning. Ambassador Sanders is the Chief Executive Officer of the FEEDS, that is F3Es, DS Advocacy Initiative, and owner of the FE's 3Ds. She lived in Africa for several years, and she's always been fascinated by the ancestral, social, historical, and educational aspects of certain African cultural practices, especially languages, artifacts, signs, and symbol systems from the Ovahimba in Namibia and the Pygmies in Congo to the Horon, the Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and Fulani in Nigeria. Ooh, you have been busy, madam,
I
haven't
have
you?
been busy, yes.
Since you left Nigeria, what have you been up to?
Well, I was still in the diplomatic corps when I left Nigeria, and I spent 2 years providing diplomatic advice and international affairs advice to a non-governmental organization as part of a diplomatic assignment. We have opportunities to do that, and I wanted to provide my expertise to really an African-American non-governmental organization working in Africa and be able to provide them with international affairs advice and policy advice. So I did that for the 2 years. So when I talk about self-help, I'm talking about it in that context.
So where is this work that you're doing? Is it in Africa?
Both. We work on programs both in the United States and in Africa, but the big focus in Africa is really in Nigeria. Along with the strategic partners, we have an affordable housing effort that in fact, I was invited here to Nigeria during this time. The book launch was kind of secondary to the reason I was coming. I was coming to participate in the stakeholder affordable housing program in Abuja on Monday and Tuesday, so I was there for that. Then we have agricultural projects as part of the Songhai projects that are being done here in Nigeria. And then information technology, which is actually my academic background. People think of me as a political scientist more than they think of the ICT background. But with Venture Garden Group, we do a lot with information technology, looking at workaround solutions for economic development.
Okay, so in terms of the kind of projects you will then be looking at going forward from now, what will it be?
I think we're going to focus on the ones I just mentioned because I want to make sure that those come to fruition before we move on to something else. Yes.
Okay, we have to begin to wrap up now. Just before we go, though, we can't let you go without asking about
political
Nigerians.
Yes.
Nigerians
Coming to the United States.
The U.S.
Yes, I was asked that by your chairman the other day, actually. And, I just provided what I think is maybe a simplistic answer, but I think it's the right one. I mean, they just need to fix it. They need to fix whatever.
Needs to fix what?
The U.S. government and the Nigerian government, whatever their differences are, they just need to fix it because the stakes are too high. You have a conflict in the north that is quite serious. You've got to find a way to address that so that your civilian population can have a normal life in that region. So whatever the challenges are, if someone's mad at the other, they need to just set that aside and fix whatever the differences might be so that they can move forward in the way.
Sorry to interject. When we look at the situation we have on our hands, Boko Haram, people are dying. We've had the President of the United States of America saying, bring back our girls. We've had Michelle Obama, the First Lady, wife of the President, saying, bring back our girls. Everybody is saying it, but the things that will make it possible for those girls to come back in terms of military munitions and so on, arms and hardware, United States doesn't seem to be supplying to help.
Well, I think that that's probably more in the hyperbole line of things than the reality. And I say that in all fairness because I think that, you know, what we can do in terms of our priorities on our side may not be matching up with the priorities that the Nigerian military sees that it needs. So if those things are not aligned, that's when I say fix it, that's what I mean, fix it. Because if they're not aligned, find where they are aligned and work together on those things. We may not be the first port of call then if we can't align those priorities up. Now, we have restrictions on our side of things that we can and cannot do. That there's no way. And you can argue the merits of that. You can argue the merits of U.S. law on one side. But in the meantime, you've got a conflict that you need to deal with. So whatever the differences are, they just need to get over those differences, put them behind them, because the main thing is to address the civilian issue and the conflicts that you have in the North. And so if there's things that we can't do, we just need to say we just can't do those things, and this is what we can do. And we need to figure out where those things line up together. And where they don't line up, that's fine. But we just need to move forward because it's just too serious of an issue not to.
Well, you've been a diplomat for many years, and you will most likely have an answer for this, but it might be a diplomatic response. But
I don't expect anything less.
I'll still ask the question, what will Nigerian government and the U.S. government need to do to align the margin or the big gulf or gap that is seen, that is very visible at the moment? Because if you have Nigerian government going to Russia and China to seek ammunition and arms and so on and so forth, in terms of the relationship, it means that it's beginning to skew towards moving away from America. And America and Nigeria is a very good relationship in the years they've gone by.
Well, I don't agree with the premise that if you have a trade relationship in a different area with a different country that we may not be thrilled with, that doesn't mean that the U.S. and Nigeria are on the outs.
But it's a driving force. Where your money is where you will most likely begin to
I don't agree with
world.
that because I think Nigeria and the U.S. are inextricably linked, and I don't think that that's going to change. I think that we care about Nigeria, Nigeria cares about the U.S. on a people-to-people level, so that's not really going to change. So we just need to dial this back a little bit, because the reality is, you know, we want to help you. We may not be able to help you in the way that you would like us with certain arms and ammunitions and helicopters. We have our way of doing things, and we can argue whether that's right or wrong, but those are our laws. And particularly when it comes to, you know, the Cobra helicopters and getting licenses, you know, we have a specific way of doing these things. On the other hand, I think that, you know, we have expertise that we can bring to the table to help Nigeria, and I think that the goodwill of the American people is really to help Nigeria as much as possible.
Okay. I think that's a good place to leave it today. Thank you very much for coming. We have been chatting with Ambassador Robin Sanders, former U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, and now CEO of Feeds Advocacy Initiative. Feeds. Thank you very much for coming, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Whether it's more books you want to write.
I'm already starting the second book.
You started.
Okay, all right. We'll get to hear about that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
Sunlight will return in just a moment. Please stay with us.